Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, this thing is live because sometimes there's a delay with YouTube. I'm Author D.L. Tillery, the Mistress of Horror, and welcome to my seminar on poetry. And it's a very specific title. It is Understanding the Self in Poetry. Um, it's an interesting topic to say the least, and I put a lot of work into this. You wouldn't know how much depth that really involves. There's a lot of layers to it. Um, so let me make sure that this is live. Can everyone hear me? First off, that's the first thing I like to always check. If you can, you can give me a hi or a wave in the chat because technical difficulties and all that. We don't want to be running. I don't want to be running my mouth and no one can hear me. Howdy, hey. Okay. Yeah, because last night when we did the after party, I was like, right before I got out there, my camera and my mic was like, I'm checking out today. I'm not going to be working. So I was like, please don't do this to me. Like, please don't do this to me. So hopefully I don't have any of those difficulties today. I did double check everything, but one never knows with the little tech gremlins, not to mention, they should just call those tech gremlins Microsoft because I feel that way sometimes with them. I swear. Uh, right. They be gone. Tech gremlins be gone. Okay, so I just wanted to, check everyone in the chat before we jump in. I like to give at least like a 10-minute opening before I start the entire presentation. The presentation portion is roughly around, I would say, 35 minutes of information. And then we have a Q&A at the end if you end up having any questions, or it doesn't always have to be questions that's directly what I cover in that sense. If it's relatable to poetry, you can ask it. If it's something that I didn't cover, as far as like the technical things of poetry, you can also ask stats. I've been doing it for a long time, so don't feel just locked in to ask just those very specific questions of what the presentation is on. If it's relatable to poetry, you can ask it. Also, with poetry, we are still writers, of course, so you can ask writerly questions as well. I'm also fine with those. Also, any you would like to know about me as a writer and poetry and things like that. So relatable things. So that gives you a lot to work with if you couldn't think of what to ask for the question portion of this. Happy Sunday. JD made it. Hey, cool gamer. I'm going to start from the top and say hi to everyone. My lovely mod Rachel is here. Thank you. Ari, hello. It was nice meeting you last night. And Kat's here. One of my favorite people, Margaret. Margaret, I actually got to watch your research presentation last night before I just couldn't take being awake anymore. I had a migraine. It was so terrible. But I did get to watch yours. Very great information. Loved everything about that. Good morning, Sam. So I don't want to miss anyone. Lovely Devin is here. And Devin's presentation is right after mine. And you can get the link in the description below for the playlist. So you want to definitely go check out her presentation, which is really good information. I can tell already from the title because it is how to market your book for free. And I mean, we always need that information because, we aren't made of money, So, of course, any free aspects is always welcome alongside if you want to do paid aspects as well. So, sometimes, even if a lot of us use free aspects, someone else could have another one that we aren't aware of. So, definitely check that out if you are in the market for publishing your books. Let's see. Did I miss anyone? Yeah, I love this one. Oh, razzle dazzle. Love it. Yes, I know. No tech gremlins, please. Thank you. And Sam is also one of my moderators. Thank you. Yes, for sure. Glad everyone can hear me. Hello from Texas, Priscilla. Hi. I love your channel too. Actually, check your channel out. Let's see. Oh my, I know, right? Oh, you don't know. Just like when they hit you, you don't know how it's going to hit you. You know how bad it's going to be, and it's like, please, not today. Like I can't. So yeah, it's so annoying. I know, right? So so annoying. But yeah, so we'll get started in a couple minutes with the presentation. Um, if you haven't actually got to watch a lot of stuff, you could go do the replays. There was a great amount of things on Friday and Saturday to do, and you know you want to be in the giveaway because who don't want stuff, right? Who doesn't want stuff? And there's a lot of great giveaways. I myself am giving away 2 copies of Thorns of My Heart, which is my poetry collection, which has 100 poems in it. I'm giving away 2 signed physical copies, and then 2 physical signed copies of Fractals, which is one of my short stories, and then The Room with N, which is another one of my short stories. Now, it's horror. These 2 are horror. Just a heads up on that for people who can't handle the horror. Not my most gory stuff, mind you. Some of that's coming. Um, but I think well, they were well received. So I think a lot of people who don't necessarily read horror could enjoy them as well. And they're short reads, so it kind of breaks you in a little bit, in my opinion. And I'm doing a workshop later on mastering short story writing because short story writing is like my thing. So if you're interested in writing short stories, check that one out. It's a shorter workshop. So, and one of the last things that I'm giving away is a one-on-one session on writing short story. It's an hour. I think it's 3 hours. I don't know. It's a one-on-one session, and it's a couple hours or hour that I one-on-one with you to write a short story to help you, give you all the information I have on how I do it. So we'll see who wins that. That'll be cool. I can't wait for that. Yes, make friends, the like button. One of my favorite people, SD. Yeah, the poets are in the house. Cool. Good to know. Good to know. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the presentation. I did make a joke with my friend Aphrodite. I told her when I was doing all the research and doing all the things and putting out the presentation, I was like, I let her hear, so I was like, does it sound like I'm being pretentious sometimes? I was like, I don't know, poets sometimes we get very wordy and we can get very philosophical and into it, you know. So sometimes it can come off that way, but it's usually not that we feel or think that way. But I think that's why a lot of people they don't understand poets a lot of the times unless they're a poet. Because of course the first time I told people I was releasing my poetry collection, and then I had people who read my other stuff and they were like, oh, I don't read poetry like automatically. And I told them, I said, you can give poetry a chance. There's so many different types of poems. There's so many different types of genre of poetry. It's not locked into these, all day, the like it's not like that. And I had to explain this to people even to this day that poetry is very layered. It very much is. Regina from Haunted Libraries made it. I love Regina. She's awesome peeps. Um, but yeah, so with poets, you know, I think people are still locked in that mindset that poetry is just this one thing, and it definitely is not that. Now, my poetry collection is on the darker side. It is romance, dark romance. It is um some people when they get this collection, I'm not sure if they're aware or prepared. It is theme based, so a lot of the poems are similar in the theme. So it could be repetitive to people who want a poetry book that has all these different types of poetry in it. But that's not what I was going for. Now I write all kinds of poetry, but this very specific collection was supposed to be, I don't, for lack of a better word, redundant in the sense that I wanted the theme to stay locked in to what I was giving out, you know. So all of the poems in this specific here were dark, you know, and romantic and sad, and it's some be twisted, coming from perspectives of the twisted, even in some cases. So, but that's the point of the theme. So it is a darker type theme. Again, poetry can go from different ways and different thoughts and different perspectives and different genres. So people, you keep their mind open as to what poetry is. It is a well of everything. And it's just you expressing whatever that is through a poetic form. So, that being said, I'm sure a lot of people here understand that poetry is quite layered and is not locked into one box. Now, today's presentation, we're going to talk about the self in poetry, which is you, yourself, and expressing that self through your words, through your poetry, and how you can do that if you haven't figured that out. Some people have. Some people are already tuned in with themselves. So the subject is going to warp around the writing, but also into other aspects of us as people. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the information, and I'm going to get us started. Yes, very true. Poetry is fluid. Yep, I do love it for that. Yes, power to the poets. Yes, right. Exactly. Very, very true. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. Let me try to do the screen share, and then I'm going to do a test real quick to make sure that you can hear the um, sound, because sometimes when I'm playing through my computer, I have to make sure that it's very specific because I'm sharing through StreamYard, and it can be playing tricks sometimes. But let me go ahead and pull that up. Let me get this one more comment real quick. I love that poetry, but I also love other themes, even other styles. Not to mention, I love hearing people cipher. And if I feel there's a form of poetry, yeah, it is. It definitely is. There's so many different forms of poetry, and I think it's something for everyone, which makes it. I like diversity. So I think that poetry has that ability to, everyone can come in and do that, and it's not locked into a very specific way. And you can find people who like that type of poetry. So definitely. All right, so let's do the share screen and see how simple this is going to make this for me today. Look like I'm probably going to have to share my whole window, which is fine. Oh no, it let me use the media player. So if I do the media player, the sound should work right away. To share audio, share tab. Okay. I don't know. Okay. We'll see. I'm not share system audio. Okay. I'm going to do the share entire screen because I'm a little worried that it could not use audio if I do the window. Okay. So it's going to look a little funky for a minute. Okay. There should be a black screen up. Okay. So that's meant to be the case. It is meant to be the screen. Before I do that, I'm going to mute out, but then I'll need you in the comments to actually um, let me know that you can hear the video. Okay. So just in the comments, because I'm going to be muted after this. So I'm going to let me minimize that. I'm going to mute myself, and then I'm going to look for the comments from everyone that you can hear. You could just say, I can hear it. Alrighty. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to share it a different way. You see, let me do video file. That might be for the better because that way it'll directly take the sound. Let's see. To Understanding the Self in Poetry with me, author and poet D.L. Tillery, at this year's AWC Author D.L Writing Conference 2024. Now let's jump into the context of this seminar. First, let's cover the outline. Introduction. Part 1, Understanding the Identity Within Poetry. Part 2, Navigating the Landscape of Self-Discovery. Part 3, Crafting Poetic Voice from Personal Experience. Part 4, Transformative Journey from Insight to Expression. Part 5, POV in Poetry in Connection with the Self. Part 6, Conclusion, followed by a Q&A session. Hi, I'm poet and author D.L. Tillery. I have been a poet since grade school. I was first published as a poet at the tender age of 19. I would go on to be published in a few poetry collections in my early 20s. During that time, I also wrote a lot of fiction stories. Now, at almost 40 years old, I have had my poetry published in Corporal Nocturnal, Bookworm Zine, and multiple books, and recently I published my first poetry collection of 100 poems, titled Thorns of My Heart. When I would write poetry, I always wrote my thoughts through an outside perspective. I would put my mindset in that of the object or person my poem was about. Each poem I write is an expansion of me, even when I'm expressing through another POV. I tend to dictate my poetry to control the flow better. Then I rework what I have and cut what doesn't flow after the first draft. Learning objective. We will learn about and come to an understanding of the self in poetry writing and how to express that self. In this seminar, we will cover 5 topics based around self into extended self. The goal is to learn to better express yourself and the extended characters within you. Let's explore. Part 1, Understanding the Identity Within Poetry. In this portion of the seminar, we're going to learn to understand the connection between identity and the depth of poetry that you would be creating. First things first, identity. What is identity when speaking about poetry? In fact, it can mean one of 2 things depending on what kind of poetry you're planning to create. It could be your personal identity that will be integrated within the poem, or it could be the identity of whomever the poem's POV is. It's much clearer when it's your own personal identity that will be the voice of the poem you will create, because you are inherently more connected to yourself when transforming your feelings into a poem. When the identity within the poem is from another's perspective, that's when you have to remove yourself from the equation and transform your POV into the one you want to portray within the poem. But before we dive any further into the 2 options of identity for poetry, let's talk about the interplay between identity and poetry. Exploring the concept of identity in poetry. The self in poetry involves examining how poets represent, question, and express individual identity and personal consciousness, as well as exploring the self within other perspectives. The concept of the self is multifaceted, encompassing notions of personal identity, self-awareness, and the relationship between the individual and the external world. Here are some key aspects to consider when exploring the self in poetry. Self-identity and individuality. Poetry often delves into the essence of personal identity, what makes a person unique. This can include personal traits and characteristics. Poets may highlight specific qualities or experiences that define their individuality. Roles and relationships. How poets see themselves in relation to others, family, friends, society. Inner conflicts. The struggle between different aspects of one's identity or between one's true self and societal expectations. Self-reflection. Many poems serve as vehicles for self-reflection, where the poet examines their own thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Introspection, deep exploration of one's inner life and emotions. Autobiographical elements, personal history and experiences as a means of understanding oneself. Existential questions, reflecting on the nature of existence, purpose, and the self's place in the world. The self and consciousness. Poetry can explore the nature of consciousness and the awareness of being. Let's touch on that a bit. Stream of consciousness, a literary technique that mimics the flow of thoughts and feelings passing through the mind. Mind-body dualism, the relationship between the physical self and the mental or spiritual self. The fragmented self. Some poems address the fragmentation of the self, often reflecting modernist or postmodernist themes. Multi-selves, the idea that a person may have different selves or identities depending on the context. Alienation and disconnection, feeling fragmented or disconnected from one's true self or from society. Transformation and growth. Poetry can depict the self in a state of change, capturing moments of personal growth, transformation, or enlightenment. Epiphanies, sudden insights or realizations that change one's self-understanding. Life stages, the evolution of the self through different phases of life. The self in relation to the other. The concept of self is often defined in relation to others, and poetry can explore this dynamic. Love and relationships, how relationships shape and define the self. Social identity, the self as part of a larger social or cultural context. Culture and historical context, the understanding of the self can be influenced by the culture and historical context in which the poet writes. Culture identity, exploring how culture background shapes personal identity. Historical moments, the impact of historical events on the individual's sense of self. Universal versus personal self. Poetry can juxtapose the personal self with universal human experiences. Universal themes, love, death, nature, and other themes that resonate with all human beings. Personal narratives, specific individual experiences that provide a unique perspective on universal themes. Examples in poetry. Now I will show you some examples, excerpts of poetry from well-known poets and lesser-known poets that cover the exploration of identity. Poem, Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. Excerpt, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. This excerpt highlights Whitman's celebration of individuality and the interconnectedness of all people, embodying the poem's theme of self and universality. Poem 2, Daddy, by Sylvia Plath. Excerpt, Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one gray toe big as Riesco's seal. This excerpt conveys Plath's intense emotion and complex relationship with her father, reflecting themes of anger and identity. Poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. Excerpt, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. These lines emphasize the connection between the self and nature, illustrating how natural beauty can inspire and uplift the individual. Poem, Self-Portrait at 28 by David Berman. Excerpt, I know it's a bad title, but I'm giving it to myself as a gift. On a day nearly canceled by sunlight, when the entire hill is approaching the ideal of the leaf, and the world's small children sprint in circles like shoelaces. These lines capture Berman's introspective and conversational tone, reflecting on personal identity through vivid, fragmented imagery. Poem, The Room of My Life by Anna Sexton. Excerpt, here in the room of my life, the objects keep changing, ashtray to cry into, the suffering brother of the wood walls, the 48 keys of the typewriter, each an eyeball that is never shut, the books, each a contestant in a beauty contest, the black chair, a dog coffin made of
Nugahide. The sockets on the wall waiting like a cave of bees. These lines use the metaphor of a room to explore Saxon's inner life and identity, highlighting the introspective and confessional style. Poem Identity Card by Muhammad Darwish. Excerpt. Write down, I am a herb, and my identity card number is 50,000. I have 8 children, and the ninth is due after summer. Does that anger you? Write down, I am a herb, employed with fellow workers at a quarry. I have 8 children. I get them bread, garments, and books from the rocks. I do not supplicate charity at your doors, nor do I belittle myself at the footsteps of your chamber. Does that anger you? This excerpt powerfully asserts Darwish's personal and national identity, challenging the reader to recognize the humanity and resilience of the oppressed. The role of authenticity in poetry, and finally for this section, a brief summary of the role of authenticity in poetry. The role of authenticity in poetry. Authenticity in poetry is pivotal for genuine self-expression, allowing the poet to convey their true thoughts, emotions, and experiences, thereby enhancing the poetic voice. When poets write authentically, they draw from their personal realities and inner landscapes, crafting verses that resonate deeply with readers. This genuine expression fosters a connection between the poet and the audience, as seen in the confessional works of Sylvia Plath and Anna Sexton, where raw, unfiltered emotions create a powerful impact. Authenticity imbues poetry with a unique voice that reflects the poet's individual identity and perspective, making the work distinctive and memorable. For instance, Walt Whitman's celebration of self in Song of Myself is compelling because it embraces the poet's expansive, inclusive version of humanity. Similarly, Muhammad Darwish's identity card resonates due to his candid assertion of personal and national identity under oppression. Authenticity in poetry not only validates the poet's experience, but also invites readers to explore their own selves through the lens of the poet's emotions. By being true to themselves, poets transcend mere technical mastery, achieving a depth of expression that can invoke empathy, provoke thought, and inspire change. In this way, authenticity is the cornerstone of resonant and impactful poetic voice, bridging the personal and universal, the individual and the collective. Part 2, Navigating the Landscape of Self-Discovery. Navigating the landscape of self-discovery is a profound journey that involves exploring, understanding, and embracing one's true self. This process is complex and multifaceted, often requiring individuals to confront various aspects of their identity, experiences, and emotions. Here is a detailed explanation of the different dimensions involved in self-discovery. Introspection. Self-discovery begins with introspection, a deep and honest examination of one's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This could involve these key points. Personal narratives, specific individuals' experiences that provide a unique perspective on universal themes. Meditation and mindfulness. These practices encourage a heightened awareness of the present moment and a deeper understanding of the self. Understanding personal values and beliefs. Central to self-discovery is identifying and understanding one's core values and beliefs. These are the principles that guide behavior and decision-making. Key steps may include value assessments, reflecting on what matters most in various areas of life, career, relationships, personal growth. Challenging beliefs, questioning inherited or societal beliefs to affirm what truly resonates on a personal level. Exploring identity and roles. Individuals play multiple roles in life, such as family member, friend, professional, or community member. Self-discovery aspects can involve role analysis, evaluating the roles one plays and how they align with personal identity. Balancing roles, finding harmony between different roles to ensure they contribute positively to one's sense of self. Embracing strengths and weaknesses. A realistic understanding of personal strengths and weaknesses is crucial for self-discovery. This can include strengths identification, recognizing and cultivating one's talent, skills, and positive traits. Weakness acknowledgement, accepting and working on areas of improvement without self-judgment, self-compassion, treating oneself with kindness and understanding, especially in the face of shortcomings. Navigating relationships. Relationships play a significant role in self-discovery. Through interactions with others, individuals learn about themselves and their relational patterns. Setting boundaries. Establishing healthy boundaries to protect and nurture one's sense of self. Mutual growth. Engaging in relationships that support and encourage personal development. Life experiences and challenges. Life experiences, including successes and failures, significantly shape self-understanding. Learning from experiences, reflecting on past experiences to extract lessons and insights. Facing challenges. Viewing challenges as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Adaptability. Being open to change and willing to evolve in response to new experiences. Culture and societal influences. Culture and societal contexts influence self-identity. Understanding these influences is vital. Culture, heritage. Exploring and embracing one's cultural background and its impact on identity. Societal expectations. Recognizing and critically assessing societal norms and expectations. Individual versus collective identity, balancing personal identity with cultural and societal identities. Purpose and meaning. Finding a sense of purpose and meaning is a significant aspect of self-discovery. Life purpose, identifying what gives life meaning and direction for you. Passion and interest, exploring interests and passions that resonate deeply with the self. Contribution, understanding how one's unique strengths and experiences can contribute to the larger world. Ongoing process. Self-discovery is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of growth and evolution. Continuous learning is key, remaining open to new experiences and learning opportunities. Self-acceptance, embracing oneself as a dynamic, evolving being. Lifelong journey, recognizing that self-discovery is a lifelong journey of exploration and self-improvement. Conclusion of self-discovery. Navigating the landscape of self-discovery is a deeply personal and transformative journey. It involves introspection, understanding one's values, beliefs, exploring identity and roles, embracing strengths and weaknesses, navigating relationships, learning from life experiences, considering culture and societal influences, finding purpose and meaning, and recognizing the ongoing nature of this journey. Through this multifaceted process, individuals can achieve a deeper, more authentic understanding of themselves, leading to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Part 3. Crafting poetic voice from personal experiences. Crafting a poetic voice from personal experiences involves transforming lived moments into expressive and resonant poetry. This process requires honing one's unique style, drawing authentic emotions, and using personal anecdotes to create a distinctive voice. Poetic voice refers to the unique style, tone, and perspective that a poet brings to their work. It is what makes a poet's writing distinctive and recognizable. Developing a strong poetic voice requires an intimate connection with one's personal experiences and ability to convey them compellingly. Here's a detailed explanation along with some exercises to help you achieve this. Steps to crafting poetic voice from personal experiences. Identify core themes. Reflect on recurring themes in your life such as love, loss, identity, or nature. These themes will serve as foundation for your poetic voice. Exercise. Spend 5 minutes listing significant life experiences on emotions. Circle the ones that invoke the strongest feelings. Keep in mind these are only suggestions. Embrace authenticity. Authenticity is crucial in developing a genuine poetic voice. Write from a place of honesty and vulnerability. Exercise. Write a short poem about a deeply personal experience. Focus on conveying your true emotions without worrying about poetic form or structure. Utilize sensory details. Incorporate sensory details helps bring personal experiences to life. Describe what you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Exercise. Choose a vivid memory and write a descriptive paragraph using all 5 senses. Then transform this paragraph into a stanza of poetry. Experiment with language and style. Your choice of words, syntax, and literary devices contribute to your unique voice. Experiment with different styles to find what resonates with you. Exercise. Write the same poem in two different styles, free verse, rhymed verse, etc. Compare the two and note which elements feel more authentic to your voice. Again, these are only suggestions. Incorporate personal anecdotes. Personal anecdotes can add depth and authenticity to your poetry. They provide specific, relatable details that enhance your poetic voice. Exercise. Write a poem that starts with a specific memory or anecdote. Focus on how this experience shaped your perspective or feelings. Reflect on emotional truths. Emotional truths are the core feelings and insights gained from personal experiences. Conveying these truths helps create a powerful and relatable voice. Exercise. Reflect on a challenging emotional experience and write a poem that captures the core emotions and lessons learned from it. Use imagery and metaphors. Imagery and metaphors can transform ordinary experiences into evocative poetry. They allow you to express complex emotions and themes creatively. Exercise. Choose an emotion, joy, sorrow, anger, and create a list of images and metaphors that represent this emotion. Write a poem using these elements. Find your rhythm. Rhythm and cadence contribute to musicality of your poetic voice. Experiment with different rhythms to find what best suits your style. Exercise. Write a poem focusing on rhythm. Play with different rhyming patterns such as ABAB or AABB and so on. Conclusion of poetic voice. Crafting a poetic voice from personal experience is a deeply rewarding process that requires honesty, experiment, and reflection. By embracing your unique experiences and emotions and using various poetic techniques, you can develop a distinctive voice that resonates with readers. Use the exercises provided to explore and refine your voice, creating poetry that is both personal and powerful. Part 4, Transformative Journey from Insight to Expression. The transformative journey from insight to expression involves moving from personal understanding, revelation, to articulating those insights into a meaningful, impactful way. This process is integral to developing a powerful poetic voice and creating resonant poetry. Here's a detailed explanation along with practice points to help guide this journey. Steps from insight to expression. Gaining insight through reflection. Insight often begins with deep reflection on personal experiences, emotions, and thoughts. Self-awareness forms the foundation for authentic expression. Practice. Spend 5 minutes each day journaling about a recent experience or emotion. Focus on what you learned about yourself from this reflection. Connecting insights to broader themes. Transforming personal insights into universal themes makes your expression more relatable and impactful. Consider how your personal experiences connect to larger human experiences. Practice. Identify a recent personal insight and write a paragraph explaining how it relates to a broader theme such as love, loss, or identity. Then outline a poem based on this connection. Harnessing emotions. Emotions are powerful drivers of expression. Capturing the raw energy of your emotions can infuse your poetry with intensity and authenticity. Practice. Choose an emotion you felt strongly recently, joy, anger, sadness, and write a list of words and phrases that capture that feeling. Use these words to write a poem. Finding the right form. The form of a poem, sonnet, free verse, haiku, can significantly influence its expression. Different forms offer different constraints and freedoms, which can shape how insights are conveyed. Practice. Take a recent insight and write it out in 3 different poetic forms. Compare the versions to see which form best captures the essence of your insight. Utilizing metaphors and symbols. Metaphors and symbols can transform abstract insights into vivid, concrete images, making them more accessible and impactful for readers. Practice. Identify a personal insight and brainstorm at least 3 metaphors or symbols that could represent it. Write a poem using one of these metaphors as a central theme. Crafting vivid imagery. Vivid imagery helps to bring your insights to life, engaging the reader's senses and making your expressions more memorable. Practice. Write a descriptive paragraph about a recent insight, focusing on sensory details, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Then condense this paragraph into a stanza of poetry. Embracing the evolution of expression. Expression is an evolving process. As you gain new insights and experiences, your style and voice will naturally develop and change. Practice. Revisit an old poem and reflect on how your insights and expressions have evolved since writing it. Write a new poem on the same theme, incorporating your current insights and style. Refining your voice. Your poetic voice is the unique style and tone through which you express your insights. Refining this voice involves consistent practice and self-awareness. Practice. Record yourself reading a poem you've written aloud. Listen to the recording and take notes on your tone, rhyme, rhythm, and style. Revise the poem based on this feedback to better reflect your voice. Conclusion. The journey from insight to expression is transformative, requiring reflection, emotional honesty, and willingness to experiment and evolve. By following these steps and practices regularly, you can develop a powerful poetic voice that authentically conveys your personal insights in a way that resonates with others. This ongoing process not only enhances your poetry, but also deepens your understanding of yourself and your connection to the world around you. Part 5. Different Points of View, POVs in Poetry. Writing poetry from different points of view, POVs, allows poets to explore a range of perspectives, deepening their understanding of self and others. By putting yourself in the role of another person, object, or character, poets can expand their creative boundaries and discover new facets of their own identity. Here's a detailed exploration of various POVs in poetry and how they extend the understanding of the self, along with practical exercises for each. First-person POV. Writing from a first-person POV uses pronouns like I and me. It is the most direct and personal form of expression, providing insight into the poet's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. How it extends understanding of self. This POV allows for introspection and self-reflection. By articulating personal experiences and emotion, poets gain clarity about their own identity. Bonus exercise. Write a poem about a significant personal experience from your life. Focus on your feelings, thoughts, and sensory experiences. Reflect on what this poem reveals about your own identity. Second person POV. Using you and your, the second person POV, addresses the reader directly, creating an intimate and engaging connection. How it extends understanding of self. This POV encourages empathy and connection with the audience, allowing poets to explore their own experiences by imagining how others perceive them. Exercise. Write a poem addressing a past version of yourself on someone significant in your life. Use you to explore emotions and advice you would give. Reflect on how this perspective changes your understanding and experience. Third-person limited POV. In third-person limited POV, the narrative is told from the perspective of one character, using pronouns like he, she, and they, but with limited insight into their thoughts and feelings. This POV allows poets to distance themselves slightly from their own experiences, offering a new perspective on personal events by viewing them through the lens of another character. Bonus exercise. Write a poem about an important event in your life, but from the perspective of a close friend or family member. Use third-person limited narration to describe how they might have perceived the event. Reflect on what new insights this perspective provides about yourself and your relationships. Third person omniscient POV. Third person omniscient POV provides a godlike perspective, with the narrator having knowledge of all characters' thoughts, feelings, and actions. This POV allows poets to explore the interconnectedness of different characters and events, broadening their understanding of how personal experiences fit into a larger context. Bonus exercise: write a poem describing a significant event from multiple perspectives, including your own and those of others involved individuals. Use third person omniscient narration to convey the thoughts and feelings of each person. Reflect on how seeing the event from different angles affects your understanding of it. Dramatic monologue. A dramatic monologue is a type of poem in which a single character speaks to a silent audience, revealing their personality and situation through their speech. By embodying another character, poets can explore different aspects of human experiences and psychology, which can lead to greater empathy and self awareness. Bonus exercise: write a dramatic monologue from a perspective of a historical figure, literary character, or someone very different from yourself. Focus on their voice, motivations, and emotions. Reflect on how this exercise deepens your understanding of human nature and your own identity. Object or animal POV. Writing from the perspective of an inanimate object or an animal uses creative imagination to convey thoughts and feelings that are typically outside human experiences. This POV encourages creativity and empathy, allowing poets to explore human emotions and experiences through unconventional lenses. Bonus exercise: choose an everyday object or animal and write a poem from its perspective. Describe its experience and emotions as if it were sentient. Reflect on how this exercise helps you see familiar things in a new light and what it reveals about your own perceptions. Collective POV. The collective POV uses we and us to represent a group's perspective. It emphasizes shared experiences and collective identity. This POV highlights the poet's connection to larger communities and social groups, fostering a sense of belonging and collective identity. Bonus exercise: write a poem from the perspective of a group you are a part of, family, community, team. Use collective pronouns to convey shared experiences and emotions. Reflect on what this reveals about your role within the group and your collective identity. Conclusion: understanding the self in poetry. In this seminar, we have explored the intricate and multifaceted concepts of the self in poetry. We've delved into how poets use their personal experiences, emotions, and perspectives to craft powerful and resonant poetic voices. Here are key takeaways. Embracing authenticity. Writing from a place of honesty and vulnerability creates poetry that resonates deeply with both the poet and the reader. Explore different perspectives. Experimenting with various POVs and stepping into different roles broadens your creative horizons and deepens your understanding of the self. Reflect and refine. Regular self reflection and feedback are essential for refining your poetic voice and enhancing the depth of your work. Connecting personal and universal themes. By connecting personal experiences to universal themes, your poetry can achieve a broader and more impactful resonance. Engage in continuous learning. The journey of self discovery and poetic expression is ongoing. Continue to explore, experiment, and evolve in your writing. My final thoughts: understanding the self in poetry is a lifelong journey that intertwines personal introspection and creative expression. By delving deeply into your own experiences and emotions, experimenting with different perspectives, and continually refining your voice, you can create poetry that is both uniquely personal and universally resonant. Thank you for your participation in this seminar. I hope it has provided valuable insights and inspiration for your poetic endeavors. We will now have a 15-minute Q&A session. Thank you and happy writing.
Okay, I'm going to remove that. Alrighty, so that is the presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Um, some of my awesome moderators are sharing the links for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both a lot. Thank you. Um, That was a lot of work. So much writing down notes, so much researching things, so much going over my all my old stuff. Like such a long thing, but I wanted to do it. So thank you, SC. But now we have the Q&A. I will go back through and look for questions with the Q in the front. If you still have something you would like to ask about or inquire about, then you can put a Q in front of it so that way I can make sure that it is, I try to catch it before we end. And I want to end on time too, so that way you all can get over to Devon's if that's what you're going to do with your next hour. But that is definitely one to check out. JD asks, do you start with a verse, a concept, or title? Talk a bit about your methods and how people can explore. Um, how do I start? A lot of the times I start with an emotion, and it depends on the day or on what's going on with me. Being a person who has always been in the arts, I've kind of always, I guess, being a poet early on, I kind of always linked my poetry into my other aspects, even in my fictional writing and my dance, because I've been a dancer my whole life. So sometimes when I would, well, most of the time when I performed live, I never actually did choreography except for when I had students and things like that. So I would actually tell a story when I danced, and it was mostly due with my emotions. So my poetry is follows suit from that. A lot of it is emotion or something I thought of. And when it is a concept, um, like my book here, it was a concept. It was a darker setting. So the concept was to see from the darker side of things, but even these dark things can feel with the semblance of love to them. So it's a lot of that type of things which get lead. So I kind of could come from different things. As far as titles are concerned, that seems to be more leaning when I'm writing my novels and short stories, because I can have a title and then like bam, a whole story comes to life. Which it could happen with poetry, but a lot of times my poetry, it is a feeling or a concept. And do I start with a verse? I don't know if I start with a verse. The emotional part of it or the concept kind of leads into that first verse. And I'm a very rhymey style poet. I have written stuff that is not on that setting because there's so many different types. But I do tend to prefer rhyming style. I like the battle of it, should I say, of the words connecting from a past line and bringing, I think it brings the reader, it's kind of like you're in, then you go into the line, but then you're back in again, connected to the line previously. Because I do like to do a lot of ABAB, AABB also. But there are so many different patterns that you could do for poetry if you're going to do rhyming style poetry or not. Free form, of course, you could do as well. But yeah, I really do prefer that. So let's talk about my methods and how people can explore. I think you should always explore with I've talked to a few people who have, messaged me and everything, send me their poetry, and they do so well, I think. And I think that has a lot to do with just, feeling what you feel and then writing it down and then listening to it. Now I do dictate my poetry nowadays. I didn't used to. Um, when you speak it out loud, you can hear it if it's hitting you the way you felt inside. So that's how I think you can explore a lot of the exercises that I said in the video. Definitely work to bring out your um, emotions, and all the things in our life can really help you create poetry. Now, poetry doesn't have to be about your personal self. It doesn't have to be about the things in your life or in your world. I am definitely one who writes poetry from a fantasy perspective, from characters that I could never ever be. So even then, it's still a part of me, because I always say, like, even in my stories and stuff, those characters, those villains, all the monsters are little extensions of myself, or like what's all in here. So to think about some of the villains that I've written and am writing, like there's a little darker stuff in all of us. So I think it's funny to see when writers express that rather through poetry or telling whole stories. And poems are really little stories themselves. And JD said, how much do you edit your poetry? Um, how much I edit it, usually when I dictate my poetry, it's just from me speaking it. And then I listen back to it after that. I have like a person read it back to me. Then I read it out loud myself, even though I'm the one who spoke it. Um, and then after I have that there, then that's my part of my editing process. I listen to it, I reread it, I play with the matching of what words I want to express and get this understanding. I do sometimes like to speak metaphorically a lot of my poetry. I'm not always direct with what I mean. I can be, but sometimes I am not. I beat around the concept or theme or story I want to tell. And I would like the reader to bring their own perspective of what they think I mean. Because it's going to be, you personally, what you feel anyway from reading the words. So rather you get what I was saying or not, you'll get something that you thought it was, which is the whole point of poetry, for you to get an emotional connection to what's being, what's you're reading in front of you. So yes, I definitely edit. I edit a few ways with the reading back is definitely important. Reading out loud so you can hear it to see if it fits what you want, because it's poetry is very personal, even when it's all these different perspectives and such. Because now I don't have my poetry edited professionally. I don't really want anyone to touch it because then it changes what I wanted. Not in that sense. Now, things like spell check of words spelled wrong or possible wrong word usage, that type of editing is fine. What I don't want, obviously, is developmental or anything like that. That's not required for poetry, in my opinion. Because I wanted to stay true to what I gave. And honestly, what you created is what you were trying to give. If you do change it too much, then it starts going away from the original context, possibly. That's kind of like that thing I heard about letting it go. You need to know when to stop editing too, because you'll keep going like this needs to be perfect. You have to realize as you grow, there is no such thing as perfection. That is not a thing. It's a nice word for some people, but I don't know if it's such a nice word because there is no perfection. So you kind of do have to create your thing and then let it be what it's meant to be. Yes, editing is required, but there's a point when you need to stop and then let it be itself. All right, let me see if I know there was some cues down here. Sorry, did I miss any before? I think I did. Make sure I missed any before that. Which famous character or person, this is from Sam, person would you love to write a poetic monologue from their perspective? Ooh, good question. This is going to be funny. There's some actors that I really like, famous person, that I've always had a lot of respect for. And Sir Anthony Hopkins is actually one of them. I think the man is so like he has this distinguished thing about him that I really always enjoyed. I would love to do a poetic monologue with him. And as far as a character, Dritz Duarden, who is a fantasy character from R.A. Salvatore, who's my favorite fantasy writer. I love Dritz. I have all Dritz books. I have Dritz figures and all this stuff. I have an obsession with Dritz. So I would love to do a poem about Dritz, which one day I will. That poem that's in my collection, and I did a video read of it, The Dark Elf. One about the Dark Elf is in homage to Dritz, but from a different perspective because I love dark elves and the essence of the type of dark elf that Dritz is, because Dritz is a different type of dark elf from the like anime style dark elf. His dark elf is like they have onyx skin. And to see a character with that tone of skin be popular as Dritz became was very awesome to me. They've had it where he come in different tones because of different people touched it, but I like that Dritz's background coming from the dark, and then all his people are known for being like evil or something, but he is not. So it's very like his story is great to me. I love his story and arc, so I would love to do a poem from that. And I better speed it up a little bit here. Let's see. I said, what was the publishing process like for your poetry collection? Was it similar to publishing a novel? It's not, in the sense that I didn't have it professionally edited because I didn't want anyone to do that. Of course, I had my critique partner and or my ARC reader and beta readers do their thing. And I have my critique, which is Aphrodite, which you go off of like words, any misspelling words. I use like the programs that I use to check word spelling, and I've read it over and over and over, and all these editing, self-edit things. I'm not telling anyone to do it that way. That's just how I do my poetry. I'm very close to my poetry, so I don't really like other people to touch it. But that's a personal choice. So the process is different because all my fiction novels and everything get so professional layers done to it. But this had professional layers done to it, but it's not as the same as my novels and such. So no, it's a little bit different. But all the other publishing processes, yes, I self-published it through Amazon still. So I follow all those things of KDP with the poetry book. I did the cover myself, which I don't always do my covers. In this case, I did make the cover and designed it and all that. But that's when I first delved into doing covers. I had purchased one that was probably like $300 something back in the day, but I changed a little bit as an author, so then it didn't resonate with me any longer. So then I decided to design my own. So that was the difference between that and my other things that I publish. Have you ever considered submitting your poetry as lyrics? Actually, I used to write lyrics when I was in my teens and my early 20s. That was kind of poetry connected. I wrote a song that was from my mom. That was like a lullaby that was poetic a bit. So I have written music before, as I kind of played the acoustic guitar and the electric guitar a little bit and a little bit of drums. So I used to really be into trying to write music, and I wanted to be a singer at one point. I can sing. I could have went that route, but I didn't. But yeah, I definitely have considered submitting my poetry as lyrics before, which I may still do. Never too late. And Rachel said, I was going to ask if you ever write poetry from the perspective of your characters, for sure. But you kind of answered that. Do you find you write from that perspective or from your personal self more? I kind of sometimes see them as interchangeable, to be honest. Because like I said, I think my characters are extensions of me, no matter what they're different creatures or whatever. So yes, I do write from characters and all different monsters and stuff perspectives as well. So yes, definitely to that. I do that. But I used to, when I was a teenager in my early 20s, write more from my personal experiences and perspectives, and I still do on some days. It really depends. But yeah, I kind of do both. Thank you. Yes, do that. You guys want to get the giveaway stuff for sure. Yes, Dritz is the man. I love Dritz. Right? Dritz is cool, right? Yes, I have all his action figures. I have his little pop, the one that came out, and all the books. Like, I'm obsessed with Dritz. Yes. Alrighty, so that's going to end. We're going to end right on time. It's 11 o'clock. So make sure you go over to Devon's and check out what she has going on, and check out all the other amazing presentations for today. If you want to check out my other presentation later today at 1:20, please do. It's a short one. It's about 20 minutes. And do check out the replay if you weren't able to check this live. And I will see everyone around at the rest of the AWC. Thank you, Shannon and Margaret and Devon, for putting together this amazing convention. It is amazing every year, so I'm always looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and I'll see you soon. And I have to say, of course, my thing, stay scared.